I'm a canvas of my own experiences. My story is etched in lines and shading. You can read it on my arms, my legs, my shoulders, or my stomach, said Kat Von D. There are many ways to express yourself or your interests, but getting a tattoo is a way that someone can know your story without even speaking. The reason why people get tattoos have changed tremendously since the beginning of tattooing. From the ways that we tattoo, like the technique, to the reasons behind tattoos that we get. I have about 12 tattoos and they cover about 30% of my body. I was 16 whenever I received my first tattoo, and it was the saying, "Stay strong." I use this as a personal motivation in my life, and since then I've been using tattoos to create ways to express myself or to remind myself of a special time in my life. Being under the needle, as some people would say, is almost as therapeutic to me as an athlete taking a jog. James Owen wrote in an article for the National Geographic about a mummy that was found in the Alps nicknamed Otzi the Iceman. He was covered from head to toe in tattoos and is known as the first person to receive tattoos so far. It goes in depth about his history and his life and why he got tattoos. I intend to inform you all about the history of tattoos and the process of getting a tattoo so that you can make a decision on whether you would be interested in getting a tattoo. Some of the things I would talk about would be the history behind tattooing, the differences by trend and decade, and what to expect at the tattoo parlor from start to finish. We all can't wait to be 18 and finally go to the tattoo parlor and permanently ink our skin forever for what is significant to us at the time. But what we don't think about is who created a tattoo. Who was the first person to be like, let's do this? So let's start at the beginning. The history of tattoos are traced back thousands of years. A mummified body, Otzi the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Ossel Alps between Europe and Italy. Otzi was shot in the back with an arrow and instantly bled to death, but his body was mummified in ice in the mountains. So scientists have mapped out about 61 tattoos from head to toe, but they all remain on the lower back and joints of his body, and they're all vertical or horizontal lines, so they believe that these tattoos were for therapeutic or diagnostic purposes. They think that he had Lyme disease, arsenic poisoning, and they thought that he had a genetic mutation that gave him abnormalities. So, although the Iceman received his tattoos for therapeutic purposes and reasons behind tattoos, the reasons behind tattoos vary place to place. So, how tattoos evolved over time. Tattoos have started for the pain and therapy purposes, but quickly declined as other parts of the world had a different view. Some parts of the world thought that tattoos were rebellious and for outlaws, so only criminals or slaves would be branded with a tattoo. But starting in the 1900s, tattoos continuously changed by the decade. In the 1910s, sailors were most likely to have tattoos, and it was included in like an initiation of joining, and they would use it as like an identification if a man went overboard. In the 1920s, cosmetic tattoos became a thing. Women would get tattoos as like lip liner or even get their eyebrows done. In the 1930s, social security numbers became a thing, so people thought that they should tattoo their number to their body so they wouldn't forget, I guess. In the 1940s, we have the birth of Sailor Jerry. It was the start of color tattoos and nautical theme, and this increased military tattoos and also patriotic tattoos like the eagle, the flags. In the 1950s, there was a reflection of masculinity, meaning that only bad boys got tattoos, or if you had a tattoo, you were seen as an outcast. In the 1960s, tattoos lost popularity, especially in New York, because a tattoo parlor was blamed for a huge outbreak of hepatitis. But also in this decade, we have the increase in musicians and artists that are wanting to get tattoos, such as like Janis Joplin. In the 1970s, tattoos became more mainstream and popular because of the increase of peace signs, and this also introduced a full sleeve type of tattoo that would cover the whole entire arm. In the 1980s, that was considered more of the rebellious decade, so they seen a lot of intrigue tattoos by like bold and dark colors and outlines. But in the 1990s, celebrities were a big role, such as Pamela Anderson's barbed wire armband. A lot of people started getting those. But also trends in this decade were like tribal symbols, the Chinese symbols, and also the tattoos of the sun. In the 2000s, butterfly tattoos became a huge thing, and also the birth of tramp stamps, which would be on the lower back area. In 2010, that decade, the trend for tattoos changed, as well as the placement of tattoos. They want small, intricate tattoos in like unusual small places, like the finger on the mustache, or like music note or infinity symbol behind your ear. The most iconic was the mustache on the finger for this decade. So throughout the years, the tattoo trends have changed, as well as the technique used to insert the ink into the skin. Here I'll explain the whole process. The process of getting a modern day tattoo, and this is how you would prepare. The first step, you would establish the design and the placement of the tattoo. The artist would then confirm your age, because that's required by each state. You have to be a certain age. He would confirm the placement and design on the stencil transfer, and then he would confirm your payment and begin to prep the area. So whenever he starts to print the tattoo, the artist would often shave the area, making it smooth, and then clean it with alcohol, and then apply the stencil transfer to the area. He would then prepare the machine gun and, with a single needle, dip it into the ink and begin the lining of the tattoo. This will just be the outside. Then, after the lining is finished, he will switch to a different, it would be the same gun, but we would have multiple needles this time for the shading and the colors. So you would dip the multiple needles into the ink and then begin to shade and fill out the tattoo. After the tattoo is finished, you'll take a paper towel and some water, and you will wipe the excess ink off of the tattoo. And then you would apply a healing ointment, and most often you would get a plastic wrap to wear for a couple hours after, because it is an open wound. So the aftercare treatments, whenever you're finished, he will verbally tell you what to expect over the next couple days and how to clean the area if you need to. He will also give you a piece of paper. He is required to give you 2 forms of information on how to take care of your tattoo. Now that you've learned the history of tattooing, the popular trends, and the process, I hope you are more informed to decide if you are someone who would get a tattoo. Are you a Sailor Jerry or a finger mustache person? Or are you not interested in tattoos at all? In this speech, I presented you with several facts about tattooing, starting and how they evolved today. The oldest person known was Otzi the Iceman. How the tattoo trends have changed since the beginning of tattooing is tremendous. The process of getting a tattoo in today's world. And although tattoos and people with tattoos have been seen as outcasts or criminals, look closer to the story on my skin.